Hey, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the AHA podcast. I think this is week 7. I can't believe how quickly time is flying. It feels like we just started this podcast not too long ago, and we are already on week 7. So, welcome. I'm your host today, Alissa Morris. We have a lot going on. It's getting to be that busy time of year, carrier meetings, recertification, and all of that. So, it's definitely busy. So, thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited today because we actually have a new face on with us. We have a guest joining for this edition of the podcast. She's new to the podcast, but she's definitely not new to Advocate. She's been here quite a while. Many of you may have talked to her yourself, but Amanda McCalden, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Alyssa, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name's Amanda McCalden. If you have ever called into our home office before, I am sure we have spoken. So it's nice to speak to you again. I have been with Advocate Health Advisors for just about 10 years now. It'll be 10 years in
Wow.
August. And I've kind of done a little bit of everything. But what I'm currently focused on today is delivering the best agent support that we could possibly deliver to our agents. So every time we bring somebody onto our team, we're a small knit team, but I work with them individually and I work with them for several months to get them up to speed on all things advocate. And we want to make sure that they have all of the best tools and resources internally before we start providing that support to our agents. But yeah, currently there's about a team. How many are there now, Alyssa? 15 people on the agent care team?
I think even more than that. I think we're like
Yeah.
at 20, maybe a little over when you include
Yeah.
everybody.
The contracting and the
Yeah,
commission
commissions,
team.
contracting, all of that.
Yeah, but I'm so excited to be here and I'm happy to talk about what's coming up for this upcoming AEP and what agents are doing now to prepare certifications, technology, everything like that.
Absolutely. We're so happy to have you. And one thing, Amanda, that I think, we talk about this, but I don't know if everybody actually knows. So, Amanda, are you a licensed agent yourself?
I am. I am a
And
contracted certified licensed
yeah,
agent. That's
that
exactly
is
right.
awesome. So, you do some of the carrier certifications and AHIP every year yourself.
Yes, everybody on the agent care team here at Advocate does.
You gave me an easy one because that was going to be my next question, which was how about everybody else on our team? Basically, not just within the agent care team, but the whole company. We all are licensed.
Yeah, Advocate as a whole, everybody who is an Advocate employee is a contracted and certified licensed agent themselves. And we do that basically for credentialing. We should be agents supporting agents, and that's exactly what we are. So, just like our agents keep up with continuing education credits, AHIP, all of the certification, we do the exact same processes, not because we are selling, but it's because we want to understand the processes our agents are going through to provide them the best support that we possibly can. So when you call into the home office, it's not somebody who has never seen the AHIP certification before. We can walk you through exactly where you need to go to get the discount and everything.
Couldn't have said it better. We
That's
should
right.
just snip that and that's what Advocate's all about. So awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. We're super happy to have you. Jacqueline, I'm going to turn it over to you first. Obviously, it seems like every week now there's a new thing happening in Congress related to Medicare. I feel like there's all these sound bites and new things. So tell us anything that you're hearing about what's going on in Medicare. I think there was a hearing today. Can you share a little more about that?
Yes, absolutely. So today there was actually a hearing uh, just recently. I think it's actually going on still at this time. The Joint Economic Committee is having a hearing regarding Medicare, particularly. They're talking actually about the topic of brokers. So we made it into the news again this week. Seems to be like we have our little spotlight on us, and the topic was just looking at the trends that brokers in the insurance industry, not just Medicare but also ACA, actually are gathering over the last several years. And interesting enough, one of the witnesses is actually the key researcher on the JAMA study that came out that also put out that $10 billion number. And so they're circulating, through Congress and their hearings. And so we're actively listening to that. And the previous hearing, the health committee hearing a couple of weeks ago, actually had the incoming MedPAC commissioner coming in too. And so we've actually been using that as an opportunity to connect with some of those folks and to have great education conversations, and so we can actually understand, looking at the North Star, which is health outcomes, people getting access to care that they need, and how brokers are a tremendous value to the large healthcare system.
Yeah, I know we talked about this a little bit last week too, and maybe previous weeks, obviously with the bill that was introduced by AOC, um, talking about broker compensation and kind of the idea that there's this inflated spending out there. And I know that's going to still be a subject as we go on. The fair market value rates were released by CMS, in the beginning of June, um, for 2027. And what are we seeing there, Jacqueline, as far as what might that mean for like broker commissions? What do the carriers now have to do when it comes to that? Is there anything new that they have to do that they weren't doing before?
Yeah, well, in that agent broker comp memo that came out, CMS did, ask, carriers to provide some extra voluntary data and how they're reporting the use of brokers. So typically all they have to do is just report a range. For a while, all they did was report like 0 to the maximum fair market value of what they intend to pay brokers, but they never really had to say what they were going to pay
Hmm.
brokers. So if they're going to pay brokers $1 versus $50 versus up to the fair market value, they're being asked now to share that specific information with CMS. So CMS is collecting some voluntary data there. And it's interesting too, because the AOC bill, not that these things are necessarily related, but the AOC bill that's gained a lot of traction out there, especially I think among agents and everything too. There was a revision I noticed recently in the bill, that not only focused just on putting a compensation cap, but just kind of asking CMS to gather information on what exactly brokers are getting paid, not necessarily going back to this idea of considering it into a maximum compensation amount
Hmm.
too. But then again, we have to remember that less than 2% of bills get passed. And it's one of those things too, where it's like, who's getting attention at the table today? In our industry, and, the spotlights, been on us there too. And it's just, interesting to follow.
Kind of like a keyword, right? You mentioned Medicare or Medicare Advantage, and it's sort of like a topic that gets some attention. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I know, Amanda, you probably on the agent care team hear from a lot of agents every day. I think, tell me if you agree, I think a lot of agents are concerned about what plans might be non-commissionable this year. Um, is that something that you're getting questions on, Amanda, that you think agents are concerned about?
Yes, we do hear it quite often, especially within the last year and the year before. So many plans did go non-commissionable and last minute in many cases.
Hmm.
So we do have agents asking us constantly, "Have you heard any news on the 2027 plans yet?" It's a bit too soon, but we do know which ones are there and which ones aren't for this plan year, and we're just going to pay attention to what's coming out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. And for
Yeah.
2027, agents can rest assured that we will be cascading the information out. Like when we hear,
Mhm.
you'll hear. So just keep that in mind. We're in the same boat. So we will definitely share the information that we get. But speaking of the time it is, it's interesting because it's still 2026 and we're still making sales for 2026. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people, there's still people aging in. There's the SEPs out there. So there's still 2026, plenty of work to be done there. But of course, we're now in that phase of things where we're getting ready for 2027. So kind of straddling both things. Amanda, obviously recertification. Can you tell us about that? AHIP opened up on the 22nd. That stands for America's Health Insurance Plans. Most agents who sell Medicare Advantage are very familiar with AHIP. But tell us a little bit about, what we're seeing there. I know there's a couple other alternatives to AHIP.
Yeah, so today or this week was the week. AHIP did come out, and this is when all of the 2027 certification planning starts this week. And over the next several weeks, more carriers will be launching their dates. But so far, AHIP is out, NABIB is out, and Pinpoint. Pinpoint is a certification that we don't hear too much about, but it is also available to agents, and a lot of carriers are taking all three of these certifications. So you can access these. If you need any help, you can call into the office and we can get you the correct links and the websites. With all of these certifications, there's something special you need to know about it. AHIP, if you access it through a designated carrier portal, not all carriers, but most carriers, you'll get a $50 discount. It's applied. So instead of paying the $175 fee for AHIP, it's marked down to $125 and $50 is $50. We want you
Yes,
to
it
save that
is.
$50. So if you see that price of 175 and you're about to check out, don't please call in and we'll get you the $50 discount. We'll put you in the right spot for that. I think NABIB, Alyssa, you might be able to answer this. It's available and it's
Yes.
$100, and
Yes.
that includes CE credits that carry over. Is that right?
That's right. As I understand it, that
Okay.
$100 fee that you pay for the NABIP course includes the state CE credit. Every state has a different CE credit value. So you have to check to see within AHIP or NABIP, like what your state qualifies for. Um, with AHIP, it's an additional fee. And again, that fee varies depending on your state. And then with NABIP, I believe it's included, so you get that CE credit automatically. So it's kind of an agent's choice. I think what you have to look at what carriers you're contracted with and certified with, or that you want to certify with, to kind of plan which route you're going to go. But materially, I think they're all pretty similar. I believe they all have to cover that same kind of criteria that's Medicare approved.
Exactly. If we do recommend one of the certification courses, just because we're so ingrained in it and we work with the carriers, AHIP. Every single company that we represent here at Advocate accepts AHIP. So if you have any doubt, I would always suggest taking the AHIP certification. And that way you can take it one time and it'll transmit to all of your companies, your entire portfolio. If you have 10 Medicare Advantage companies, they will all accept a passing AHIP score.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what we try to guide agents through. But again, AHIP's been around. These types of certifications have been around now for some years. Overall, I don't think we're hearing anything materially different as far as like what the courses look like, the testing looks like. If you've done it before in previous years, you really, I feel like, should have a good handle on what it looks like for this year. So we are all jumping on it. I actually enrolled in my course today. And I'm going to be plugging away at that just to see what's new in there. So, Jacqueline, speaking of 2027, again, if you've been doing Medicare Advantage for a while, you are probably familiar with the term ANOC. But Jacqueline, can you kind of give us an overview of ANOC and kind of what your team is doing to prepare for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, annual notice of change, ANOC. That's an important time of the year, and it's something that health plans for Medicare Advantage and Part D plans have to inform their members every year, oftentimes in the fall, uh, about the coverage and costs of any changes related to those things for their plan for the next year. Of course, assuming that it's going to renew. If there's any changes there, then the plan will inform the member. And that's an important letter that, beneficiaries receive, and we're seeing that they receive it sometimes as early as mid-September, as late as the end of the first week of October. So we help agents plan for communication to their book of business accordingly. And the summertime is a great start to that, where you can really start understanding what your book of business looks like by carrier, making sure that you're organized, and looking at the plans that your clients are on. And that's just a part of being proactive and planning on, how am I going to communicate to my clients? I think most Medicare Advantage members and PDP members don't always read their annual notice of change. I think it's not always reviewed. And as we know, it's very important to review your plan every year, especially with your agent. So we have a great catalog that we offer agents as a resource so that they don't need to create the wheel. It's a great catalog that's very popular, and it has some great information in there about how agents can communicate with their members on what annual notice of change is, the importance of it, what the annual enrollment period means for them, and the things to review. And it's a great retention opportunity too for agents, and also to protect their members, from unsolicited calls and things we know that can happen. And so if our agents have any questions, we provide that support every year.
That's awesome, because I know in a perfect world, we all think like those annual notice of change letters, the member gets it and they're going to read it, and understand it and everything
Right.
is going to be great. We know that doesn't happen. So, as you said, this is a great touch point for agents. This is the time. You might think, well, it's only June. We're technically at the end of June.
Mhm.
So here we are. You might think, oh, we still have plenty of time left before October 15th when AEP starts. But now is the time to do just what you said, like looking at your book of business. Who's on what plan? Do you have their emails? Do you have their phone numbers? Do you have all of that in order? Just doing that touch point, setting up those meetings. In July, we usually get kind of those first looks from the carriers. So we, have a good idea of what carriers are maybe expanding into a new market, what carriers might be leaving a market, what those plans might look like, any shakeups or anything. So we share those, of course, with our agents as soon as we get them, and we are allowed to share them. But, getting in front of it, making sure that you're reaching out, because I think it can cause a lot of anxiety, right, Jacqueline? Like with your
It
members.
can. It can. We always hear questions too from members because when the client care team talks to a lot of members, we get a lot of, questions about things that, we might just expect beneficiaries to know. But a common thing that we always hear is, do I have to re-enroll in my plan to stay on this plan? Or I'm good, right? I don't need to talk to my agent or anything too. And so there's some basic things you should always be checking. Like a lot of times, the doctors that you see change, the prescription medications you take might have changed in the last year. Maybe also during the year, you might not even have known that you got a
Mhm.
chronic condition diagnosis. So there's a lot of factors, and these plans also change every year too. So it's a good time period to do that review, and your agent can help you do that. Also, we're seeing that a lot of times, especially last year, members are not necessarily just getting, the ANOCs, of course, are one thing, but a lot of members got, those termination notices that their plan was no longer going to be available next year too. And so that, of course, causes anxiety, and might not know what to do. And, we help that agent with that communication strategy. So getting organized is so important. I think a lot of agents have ANOC seminars too, where they plan to host meetings with their clients to review some of these changes. And we do have templates too that agents can use to message that. So the planning is now for sure, because before we know it, we're going to be in August,
Mhm.
and really your communication strategy should be wrapped up by then.
100%. And I'm going to put my compliance hat on for a minute, because I think a lot of agents still have some confusion around ANOC and what they can and can't do. So, I just remind agents, those ANOC notices get mailed directly by the plan. You as an agent can review them with your member for sure. But if you're going to be presenting a new plan to them, so for example, if their plan is going away, or if there's like a major change that just doesn't fit that member's needs anymore and they might need to look at a new plan. If you're going to be presenting a new plan, you have to treat that like a new sales appointment. So you're going to want to collect a new scope. You're going to want to record the call if it's a phone call. You're going to want to report it as a sales and marketing event if you're going to be doing a formal or informal presentation about a new plan. So just keep that in mind. Even if they're already in your book of business, if you're presenting a new plan to them, you have to treat it like it's a new sale. And the other thing too is like Jacqueline mentioned, we have templates already pre-approved and kind of pre-built so that you don't have to recreate something new that might not be compliant, because you definitely don't want to send something out that talks about, dollar amounts, plan benefits, stuff like that hasn't been approved by the carrier in CMS. So I do just want to mention that. Definitely lean on us. And we have a compliance team. Actually, it's what we've been doing a lot of right now is marketing and compliance and communication reviews for agents. So agents are getting ready. They're sending us their letters that they want to send out to their book of business, some other things that they want us to review, and we will review those and we'll let you know our thoughts and input and edits if we think that there needs to be some. So always keeping that compliance hat on. And then Amanda, I know one of the questions I feel like we get a lot from agents is, well, what's the deadline to recertify? Or is there a deadline to recertify? Tell us a little bit about what you know there.
Yeah, the deadline is kind of like an invisible line. It depends on what you want to do. And we're all here. We want to represent plans and we want to sell an AEP. If you plan on representing any Medicare Advantage plans this year, if you're selling an AEP, you should have your certifications done as soon as possible, but I would say October 1st at the very latest. Certifications are opening now. There's about 15 carriers that have officially given us a date. If they haven't opened yet, they will in the next few weeks. You can reach out to us for those dates. They're in lots of different places, and if you're contracted with several different carriers, it's not all going to be on the same exact day. So you have to look for these exact dates. But certify now, October 1st at the very latest. And we say October 1st. That just gives time for all of the systems to catch up. If you complete certifications in one day, the very next day, you're probably not going to be recognized as ready to sell. It takes a few days. And that means it's going to take a few days for all of that information to be cascaded down to your enrollment tools. The Sunfires, the Connectures of the world. That is not instant information that's updated right away. So allow time for those systems to update, allow time for the carrier portals to update. And I think October 1st is a pretty good deadline.
Definitely by October 1st. I would say even sooner, because like Amanda said, October 1st is when you can start talking about the 2027 plan benefits. So, if you're doing it on September 29th, you're late to the party already, because you haven't been able to get any, like if you want hard materials from the carriers, like summary of benefits and things like that, you won't be able to order those until you're certified and ready to sell. And like Amanda said, it's not an instantaneous communication from when you get your certificate from the carrier portal to when it gets actually through the carrier system. In some cases, it can take some days, right, Amanda? Like it can, even for the carrier to show you ready to sell. And then that has to cascade into the enrollment platform of your choosing, whether it's Connecture or Sunfire, like she mentioned, and there may be others. But so having that in mind, getting those certs done as quickly as possible is key. I recommend, and Amanda, maybe you have different advice, but I always recommend, I tell agents, take it one carrier at a time. I think sometimes it can be overwhelming if you are contracted with multiple carriers and you're getting all these emails flying at you, but like focus on one. Then when you're done with that one, move on to the next. I know some agents are trying to do like 3 or 4, even 5 carriers at a time. And like, where am I with this one? So taking it in bite-sized pieces, I think is important, carrier by carrier. And then, if you are not planning on selling during AEP, although I'm not sure why you wouldn't, but November 30th is also a date to remember, because that's usually, if you have a book of business, you want to stay certified in order to keep your renewals and keep your clients. And so it's important. But if you have any questions on that, definitely reach out to the Advocate Agent Care team or your local regional manager, and they're happy to assist you. With that, I can't believe how fast the time flies. Like, I feel like we could just continue talking and like just kind of going over everything, but I think this has been awesome. I think it's a lot of good information. I know agents have a lot of stuff happening right now. The carriers are going to start holding those like first look meetings to do deep dives into their benefits. And I highly encourage agents to attend those. What about you guys, Jacqueline and Amanda?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now is the time to pay attention to your emails. It's
Yes.
sometimes it's hard to do because we're getting inundated with so many things, so many announcements from the carriers. But in your emails, the carriers are sending you all of their great dates. There's going to be market specific meetings,
Mhm.
market specific to you and to you only. So if you were to call in and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a market meeting," I might not have that information because it's only been sent to your individual market. Plan first looks will be announced, new carrier certification dates. So keep on your email. I know if you've got thousands in there, just keep an eye on it because there's lots of good information that's coming from all different directions.
Awesome. Good advice. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this week 7 of the AHA podcast. And we look forward to seeing you next week. And maybe at that point, we will probably have more information to share with you on the hearing that Jacqueline mentioned that's happening literally as we speak. But we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.
Thanks so much.